that'll be interesting.
I was going to go to med school, but some grades changed that. I think I'm going to go to law school.
Um,
Ooh,
I have no idea.
Okay, so I'll come back now. And so here we are. These are the smartest kids in the country. You can get good grades, but you don't know what the heck you're doing. Why? Well, because it turns out being, really good at school has nothing to do with being really good at life. And being really smart has really nothing whatsoever to do with really being clear about who I am and what I want and how to get it. And so this is life stuff, not school stuff. And they don't teach life at school, even though the best schools, they don't teach life at school. So what's going on with that? So we come up with this challenge of solving this problem. And so I work in the design department. We help people learn how to design really cool products. I worked at Apple Computer in the early days with Steve Jobs. I ran the development project to invent the world's first computer mouse, the world's first desktop laser printing. I was a co-founder of Electronic Arts. We did lots of product design in those companies. Now we're going to take that same set of ideas about how do you design a product to how do you design yourself. So the Design Life Lab has the challenge of applying the principles of design thinking, and I'll tell you about that in a little while, to the wicked problem, the really gnarly problem of designing your life at college and after college, i.e., how do I figure out what I want to do in my life, and how do I get it once I figure it out? Now that sounds kind of formal, but what we really mean is we're the guys that teach the classes to help you figure out what you want to be when you grow up. Actually, that's a bad idea. What you really want to do is help figure out what you're going to keep figuring out what you want to be next. Because frankly, at the rate the world is changing and things are moving around. I mean, a year ago, it's almost exactly a year since COVID landed on the shores of North America and changed everybody's life hugely. Well, nothing's ever going to stay the same again. Disruptions are now normal. So you got to keep figuring this out over and over again. So when we say it like this, people often raise their hand and go, ooh, hey, can I take the class? Well, we just teach at this one little school called Stanford. It's even not that big. And for a long time, we had to say no, because that's the only place we worked. So then we finally said we should help other people too. So we wrote a book. We wrote this book called Designing Your Life. What happened to that is, to my great surprise, it became a huge New York Times bestseller. There are now 600,000 copies in 23 languages all over the world. We have now trained more than 250 colleges and universities worldwide to do the kind of work we were doing. In fact, I was just teaching a class at the Siegel Design Institute at Northwestern University in Chicago 2 hours ago, working with people in Chicago. We now serve over 1 million students worldwide through all these hundreds of affiliates that have learned what we do. And the people at Nest said, hey, can you hang out with our kids too? So something seems to be going on here, so what's up with that? Why don't these people buy this book? Well, the reason is because people are stuck. People are stuck. They can't get what they want. They don't know what to do next. And very often they're stuck because of what we call dysfunctional beliefs, ideas that just don't work, or in some cases are completely untrue. Just give you a few examples. The first one is, hey, the top schools are the best. You really want to go to, UC Santa Cruz, you want to go to Stanford, you want to go to Cal, you want to go to Yale or something, well, a whole lot of people think that's true. It's not true at all, but it's a really popular dysfunctional belief. And so it's such a popular dysfunctional belief. A year or two ago, you may have noticed in the news, maybe you didn't see this, there's a huge scandal about a big admissions cheat going on. There was a company that actually was helping super rich people, especially a whole lot of like movie stars' kids, get into schools they really couldn't deserve to go into. In fact, one kid got into Stanford by paying a $4 million bribe to the sailing coach on the sailing team, and the sailing team coach sneaked this kid in. It was a countrywide thing. It was a complete scandal. And here's the thing: it was stupid. Stanford's expensive enough. Paying $4 million on top of the tuition is ridiculously expensive. So here's this group called Challenge Success. Challenge these misunderstandings of what success in life is really all about. There are a bunch of people we work with together at Stanford in the education department, and they evaluate how people succeed both in college and after college. And they've learned a lot of things. And a whole lot of people are going crazy trying to get into the best school they can get into. Well, getting into the best school actually doesn't matter at all. Now I'm going to turn my video off because here comes yet another video that I want you to be able to see. So I'm going to stop my video and I'm going to play this movie.
Are you stressed about the college admissions process? We've heard from over 100,000 high school students that applying to college can be a huge source of stress for them and their parents. Many students have a fit over getting into college because they think that attending the most highly ranked or most selective schools is the key to future success and happiness. But an extensive review of literature on college outcomes conducted by Challenge Success actually shows that college rankings are problematic and are not the best indicator of a school's quality. In fact, the research shows that what students do in college may matter more than which college they go to. Finding a college that fits you and where you can be highly engaged is a better predictor of long-term outcomes like student learning, job satisfaction, well-being, and even future income than going to a highly ranked school. What does this mean for high school students applying to colleges? Broaden your gaze and consider looking beyond rankings in the college search process. Look for a school where you can participate fully in academic, civic, and social life to thrive during the college years and beyond. It's not necessarily the college that makes the difference. It's you and what you do while you're there. To learn more, download the Challenge Success White Paper, A Fit Over Rankings: Why College Engagement Matters More Than Selectivity.
Okay. Let me see. Hang on here. Let me. Can you de-unmute my video, Catherine? Okay. There we go. Okay, we're back. So how you go to college matters a great deal more than where you go to college. I mean, literally going to Cal State Monterey Bay well is better than going to Harvard badly. Now, some of you may not believe me about that, but it's absolutely true. Now, I know you're not applying, but a bunch of you are at Cabrillo or at community college and you're thinking about transferring to a four-year school. Some of you are in a four-year school and maybe you're thinking, well, it's the only one I could get into. I mean, there are probably some UC Santa Cruz people here. That's a very good school, clearly. Some of you at CSUMB, maybe you're doing remote stuff at San Jose State. Maybe you're thinking you should try to do better. Don't worry about it. It's not the issue. How you go to college matters way more than where you go to college. And by engagement, like, what do you do while you're there? And here's another very common dysfunctional belief. Everybody talks about this. Hey, what's your passion? Have you figured out your passion? You're following your passion, aren't you? We hear this literally all over the world, not just in California or Silicon Valley. And here's the problem with thinking passion is the most important thing. First of all, 8 out of 10 people don't have one. They either don't have any passion figured out yet at all. Like, I don't know, Dave, I just haven't found mine. Or they've got a bunch like, gee, I'm really interested in a lot of things. Which one did you want to hear about first? Well, if you have either a lot of passions or none, you don't have from your passion list a clear indicator about how you should organize your life. Well, we think an idea that's based on 8 out of 10 completely normal people being treated like there's something wrong with them is a really bad idea. So passion, for the most part, by the way, if people end up being able to say, yeah, you know, I feel like what I'm doing is really important to me and I'm living it in a passionate way. If that's you, very often that passion was found after you got involved in the thing you were doing, not before you even started. So passion usually is the end point of a life well lived, not the starting point of a life well lived. But it's a very common idea, just happens to not be true for almost everybody. And then there's but wait a minute, you just don't understand, Dave. You know, I mean, you're a successful Silicon Valley executive startup guy from Stanford. I mean, you don't get it. I can't do this. Okay, well, you know, frankly, I'm not sure you should listen to me because I'm probably not you. And I mostly work with people who are more capable of understanding your situation than am I. So I asked a really good friend of mine. We need to hear from this guy named Gabe Lomelli. So Gabe Lomelli is a first generation He's a Mexican. His parents are both from Mexico. They moved to California years ago, scratched their way into the state as best they could. Gabe was the first kid in his family to go to college. Over time, ended up working for me. Came to Stanford, actually worked for us at Stanford, and he now is at LinkedIn, and he's got quite a story to tell. So I asked him to tell the story. Frankly, if you listen to anything in my whole talk, listen to this. So once again, I'm going to turn my video off, and we're going to hear, there's going to be about 12 minutes, because I said, Gabe, I really want you to tell your story, because I think your story is exactly the kind of thing that a Digital Nest student or a Digital Nest prospective student needs to hear, okay? So here's what Gabe has to say.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Gabriel O'Malley, and I work at LinkedIn Media Productions out here in Sunnyvale, California. I'm an account manager there, and I help with a lot of creative projects and multimedia projects. I want to talk to you a little bit about my own journey and academic quest, trying to figure out like the right job for me and the right industry for me. It wasn't easy. It was a lot of hard work. But I will tell you that there's some simple tools that you can use right now, even right now, to figure out what are some things that you're good at, what are some things that you like doing, and unlocking all sorts of opportunities along the way. So I'm originally from Stockton, California. I'm a first generation college student. My parents are Mexican American. My mom's from Mexicali. My dad's from Guadalajara, Jalisco, like Canelo, if you know who that is. And I went to public school, went to high school, and then I ended up at community college out there in Stockton, Delta Community College. And my academic journey was difficult because while I was trying to navigate through there, it kind of felt like this. I was just trying to figure out my next step, trying to figure out my classes, trying to figure out, what major to take, or, I just didn't know. And I felt like I was guessing the entire time. I ended up at San Jose State, and I majored in psychology and social science. And the reason I picked those majors was because they seemed so broad. I felt like there'd be a lot of jobs available to me if I got that. So I did. But while I was there, I remember feeling like, hey, I'm not sure if this was the right move for me. I'm not sure if this is the right major, the right school, nothing. So it was at that time that I started leaning into some curiosities that I had, some other things, maybe some of you feel this right now, but you feel like a certain curiosity or a certain interest or a certain passion of yours that you feel building up in your chest, and it might be calling to you. And I say, hey, if I were you, I'd start listening a little bit to it, because I listened to mine and it just took me on a whole different trajectory. And it started like this. I've always had an interest in music, rap music specifically. And I had a friend at the time named Ivan who was a music producer, making beats for like hip hop, reggaeton, pop, R&B, all the good stuff. And I remember I told him one time, I was like, hey man, I don't know what it is, but like, I want to be around what you're doing. I'm not saying that I want to be a music producer like you, but I just want to be around it. So I ended up hanging around him and in his studio. And I remember that when I was there, I would just feel like alive, like, wow, he'd play some beats, and I could, in my mind, I would see like colors popping all over the place. I was like, man, this is really cool. Around that same time, I picked up a job at the Boys and Girls Club in Redwood City. I was an after-school mentor. One time, I walked in and talked to my boss about something, and he was in the media room, and he was on his computer messing around with the software. And I said, hey man, what is that? I was being curious, like, what's going on there? Because it looked like he had some footage going on, right? Some footage on the screen, and he was messing around with it. I said, what is that right there? He said, oh man, this is a video editing program. I'm like, what do you mean? What is that? He's like, it's Adobe Premiere Pro. You can edit videos. I'm like, hang on. You could take video footage from like a camcorder, because at that time it was in camcorders, not on the iPhone. So you could take that and put it into a computer and then chop it up and mix it around like a puzzle piece. He's like, yeah. I was like, wait, can you put music in here? He's like, yup. I was like, hold up. Can you make music videos with this thing? He's like, yup. When he told me that, it's like a light bulb went on in my head. And I was like, wow, I have access to a computer that has a video editing program and software, and this guy knows how to use it, that means I can learn, and it's right here. So it was so important that I found a spot that I had access to, and I was able to become aware of this opportunity. And then I wanted to apply the skills quick, because in my mind I was like, I could take footage and I could put it around like a story. That makes sense to me. Sure enough, I started spending hours and hours and hours there. After my job ended, after my shift ended, I'd go in there and spend countless hours asking tons of questions to my friend Pete, and saying, can you teach me this? Can you teach me that? Looking up on YouTube how to do it. And I became really good, to the point where I started doing music videos for all these artists, local artists. And then that just kept growing and growing. I ended up producing music videos in Los Angeles and right here in the Bay Area for my favorite rappers and artists. It was tons of fun. And I never even went to school for it. This is just something that I was just learning on the side. Around the same time, I had another coworker named Sean Mendy ask me if I can help him with a school project that he had. I was like, all right, yeah. He's like, hey, I have a project because I'm going to graduate school, and I need to put a video together. I heard you're really good at video editing. Can you help me with that? I was like, sure thing, man. I can hook you up. No problem. He comes on over to the studio that we had at the Boys and Girls Club, sits down with me, and as we're going through his footage, I'm asking him a bunch of questions. So what's this for, man? What are these interviews for? You know, who are these people? What's the assignment? What's the class? And he told me things like, oh, you know, I'm in a graduate program. I'm like, what's that? He's like, well, you know, I'm getting a master's degree. I'm like, what are you getting a master's degree in for? In education and technology. And I'm like, where? He's like, Stanford University. I was like, Stanford? The Stanford University with the S and the tree? He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, we're in Redwood City, man. Like, how are you going to Stanford? Where's Stanford? See, because in my mind, psychologically, like, Stanford was on the East Coast. But he told me, he's like, man, it's just right down the street. It's on El Camino, man, 30 minutes. And I was like, man, you're the first person I ever met that went to a school like Stanford University. Man, that's crazy. And then you know what he told me? He said, man, matter of fact, I think that you should apply to this program at the School of Education called Learning, Design, and Technology, because what they do is they fuse media and education and teach it to the students, kind of like what you're doing here at the Boys and Girls Club. And I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but when somebody says something to you, and like the moment that they say it, like, man, I wish you would have never said that to me, because now I'll never stop. I'll never be able to stop thinking about it. That's what he did. He planted a seed inside of me, and it just went. Long story short, I ended up going to Stanford because I applied to one school, got in. When I got there, got my mind blown by this class called Designing the Professional, which is also taught by the same lecturers who teach Designing Your Life and Designing Stanford, Dave Evans. And he taught me how to use some tools that I was already using, how to use the mindset of curiosity, how to use information interviewing to talk to other people, how to prototype different interests and different jobs and different things that I think I might be interested, but I'm not sure how to test that out. Blew my mind. And while I was in there, I think I left an impression on him while I was in his class, because a year after I graduated, he emails me and asked me to join his lecturing team. I was like, heck yeah. So just by me being curious, talking to people, capitalizing on opportunities, more opportunities were opening up. And it was a pattern that I seen in my life. When I was a lecturer there with Dave at the School of Design at Stanford, I started speaking to a lot of other peers and colleagues who were at the School of Business, or who were teaching other courses around campus. And I started learning about entrepreneurship and about how to take an idea that you have and form a business out of it. So around that same time, I started my own company, a video production company. And it turns out that my very first clients through networking and talking to other people were the big tech companies, Google, Asus, and even LinkedIn. And it turned out that a few years after working on my own business, I got recruited by LinkedIn, and that's where I am today. And all that happened because I took a step into the direction of my curiosity. I went to school at San Jose State for psychology and social science, but because I felt a tug on something else, I went a different direction. And now I used all that I learned in psychology, social science, and all that. I use it now in media production and in creative strategy and what I work in right now. But I wish I could sit here and tell you that it was all easy and fun and games. But that's not the truth. You know, like I said, I'm a first generation college student. And my parents are from Mexico, from Mexicali and Jalisco, like I said. And anything that I did in education or like the professional realm, I was like the first in my family to do it. So I kind of felt like a trailblazer, but at the same time, I felt alone a lot, and I felt scared. I felt scared all the time, actually. I was afraid every single step of the way. I was afraid when I couldn't get a job out of San Jose State. I was afraid when I went to the studio with my friend Ivan. I was afraid the first time somebody asked me to edit a music video for them. I was afraid the first time I got a big break, you know, with the music videos. I was afraid when I went to go lecture at Stanford. I was afraid when I got into Stanford because I thought I was an imposter. And I was afraid when I got into LinkedIn and started working for LinkedIn because I thought maybe I wasn't smart enough or maybe I wasn't qualified enough. Maybe a lot of you already know this, but this is called the Imposter Syndrome. And first I want to say, if you've ever felt like that, it's totally okay. Maybe you're afraid to talk to people, or maybe you're afraid to try something brand new, or you're afraid to ask for help. Well, I got this to say. One, it's okay to be afraid, all right? Two, the only time that you can practice being courageous is when you're afraid. So next time you're afraid, say, good, because this is a time right now that I could practice being courageous. And not only that, but I learned how to use fear and the imposter syndrome as a tool and as a weapon in my career. The way I do it is, sometimes if I feel like I'm not qualified enough, sometimes I get so nervous and so anxious and I stress about it so much that I put in extra work to prepare or to train, or I spend nights, you know, going in deep, trying to learn as much as I can, trying to prepare. And what ends up happening is because I put in that extra time and that extra work, I exceed the expectation. And then when I exceed it, there's no better feeling than that. You know, I kill a project, or I get promoted, or I land a job, or I do an awesome project. And then what happens, I exceed it, and then I'm asked to do something even more. And then the whole cycle again. Oh, maybe I'm not good enough. No, this is that. Start studying, boom, exceed that too. So I just wanted to share that with you, that if you feel like an imposter, it's all good. And I know people that I work with right now at LinkedIn that feel like that still. I feel like that every now and then, for sure, you know. And but I just don't let that stop me. If something scares you, that's not an excuse not to do something. You can still go ahead and try it.
Okay, so that's my friend Gabe Lamelli. Guys, I love Gabe to death. We worked together, it was, 5-6 years ago. We stayed in touch. He just got engaged. He waited for his dream girl. He just got engaged. Life's going really well for Gabe, you know, and it takes a lot of steps, but, you know, maybe you can do it. If he can do it, maybe you can do it too. So here's the thing. In light of all that, okay, so, well, these are the dysfunctional beliefs, you know, and we're not supposed to get stuck by that. We want college to work for us. You know, what are we supposed to do it right? Well, I'm going to give you just two pieces of advice. One, how to go to college effectively. Now, if you're just starting, or if you're at Cabrillo, if you're at CSUMB, if you're UC Santa Cruz, wherever you are, do two things. Number one, be a wayfinder, not a navigator, and I will explain what that means. And crack the college success code. And frankly, if you know how to crack the college success code, you're actually cracking the life success code. And we actually know what it is. It's kind of a secret, but I'm going to tell you today. So the first thing up is, before we understand how to do that, this thing is the designing your college and your life experience, right? Well, what does this design stuff got to do with anything? When Gabe came and took my class and it actually worked for me, what was it we taught him how to do? We taught him how to think like a designer. And designers think differently than other people. What is design thinking? What does design thinking mean? That's actually kind of a cute label for what's formerly known as human-centered design. And the easiest way to understand what design thinking like a designer is, and by the way, you got to know, if you want to be involved in tech, you want to get involved with the kind of companies that Digital Nest can connect you to, all those companies use design thinking. Santa Cruz Works, run by Doug Erickson, a very big partnership with Digital Nest. Dean Hovey and I, too, the earliest design crews were really old. Old Silicon Valley designers came down and gave a big presentation on the history of design thinking in Silicon Valley. It has kind of run the innovations of the Valley for years now. So understanding it is a really powerful thing. First of all, there are lots of different ways to think. You can think like an engineer, and engineers solve their way into the future by getting the right answer to an understood problem using the right equations. I'm going to go build a bridge. I know exactly what the strength of the steel is and what the moment arm and the loads are, and I can actually solve that problem, and I can build a bridge that will absolutely work, and it will be the right answer. So engineers like to get the right answer. Now, in the business world, you want to think like a business person. Well, you're never right in business. The customer never loves you enough. You're never making enough money. You're never outdistancing yourself from the competition well enough. You never know exactly what people want. So there's no right answer, but you can get better. You can get better by optimizing the way you do things. Digital Nest has had a lot of success. I mean, they're actually expanding out to 5 different sites now, but a big granting organization. So we love what you're doing. You're getting really good at what you're doing. Once you do it 5 times bigger, that's optimizing their way forward. There's research. I work in a university where lots of research is done, both humanities research with books and scientific research with microscopes, and there's a specific mechanism and methodology for how you analyze things as a formal academic researcher to invent new knowledge. Now, all 3 of these ways of thinking are very powerful. They've been around for a long time. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in life that these won't help you with. There are problems that you might want to solve that none of these is very good at. And that's what we invented design thinking for. Design thinking was actually literally invented at Stanford over 50 years ago in the early 60s. 1963 is when this got started. And design thinking, we build our way forward. And we do this for the kinds of problems that are called wicked problems. A tame problem is a well-behaved problem you understand. It might be a really, really big one. Like a tame problem is put a man on the moon and bring him back again. Okay, that's a really hard tame problem. We know the moon, where it is. We know how fast it moves. We know how big the rockets have got to be. It's just a lot of work, but we can solve that problem. Now a wicked problem is one where you don't even know what you're looking for until you find it. And once you find the right answer, you can't copy it and give it to somebody else because each person or each situation requires a unique version of it. So a really wicked problem would be something like, what do you want to do with your life? That's a really wicked problem. And you can't analyze the answer because nobody knows what you want. And what you're really trying to do is invent something no one has ever seen before. It's called the future, whether it's the future of a city, whether it's the future of a college, whether it's the future of you. Nobody's been to the future. So you can't analyze, you can't research it, you can't equation it, you can't calculate it. You have to try it. So you build your way forward. And that's what we actually do when we do this. So what we do is we have a process and a set of mindsets. I'm going to give you about a semester's course and a design overview in about 5 minutes. Here we go. Now, the 5 steps of design are these: empathy, definition, ideation, prototyping, and testing. We've been teaching this for a long, long time. By empathy, the first step is really understand what's going on, right? You have to know who the people you're trying to work with are, who the people you're trying to serve are, what their needs really are. Then, only after you understand the problem, can you define what it is you're going to try to do for them. Then you can have a bunch of ideas about how to solve that problem, and then you prototype. You don't just jump right to the answer and hope it works. You make lots of little tests, lots of little prototype experiments to try things out. And prototype iteration is really the centerpiece of what design is all about. That's what building your way forward. You don't think your way to an answer, you build your way to an answer. You got to try stuff. Now, in life design, especially when we apply this idea to a person, not to something like, a computer mouse, which is pretty simple comparatively, you have to put in the first step, step 0, I call it, which is the accept step. Accept means I am right where I am. You can't solve a problem that you're not willing to have. Some of you might be thinking, oh, I'm in the wrong place, or oh, I'm behind by 2 years, or oh, I really should be doing something else, or I'm really never going to be able to pull this off because I can only go to school part-time. I got to work part-time too. So you're starting by saying there's something fundamentally wrong with you or fundamentally wrong with your situation. You're not accepting it and saying, so I have to fail, or it's just not going to work the way I hope it will. Well, there might be some constraints to your situation. I'm not pretending that's not true. But if you can accept your situation, then and then only do these ideas about having a better idea actually work for you. Now, designers also not only use a process like that, but they also have a mindset, a way of thinking about the world. And the key things about that are these 6 ideas. The first and most important one is right in the middle, curiosity. I'm talking about curiosity a lot. Curiosity, Gabe talked about it a lot. Like, what are you actually interested in? This is where all the energy is. This is the battery that kind of runs your behavior. If you're not interested, you're not curious, who cares? You're never going to be able to finish something you're doing just because somebody told you to. Now, if I am curious, then what I want to do is I want to be a radical collaborator. Now, radical doesn't mean I collaborate with radicals or crazy people. It means I really collaborate widely. I go out and I talk to everybody that's involved with the thing I'm working on, which means I'm going to get everybody's point of view. I have to really listen. It's that empathy stuff. That listening will undoubtedly teach me something I didn't know that I didn't know about the situation. I'm saying I have to reframe, redefine, recalibrate the way I think about stuff. I got to be mindful of all the steps of the process I'm taking. I want to be working very intentionally. And in the process of that, I want to have a bias toward action. I want to do things, not just think about things, not just sit on the couch, kind of go, I wonder what I should do next. I'm going to go try stuff, And then storytelling means when I'm going along the process of making these steps work, I have to be ready to tell the story of what it is I'm trying to do, why I'm trying to do it. If I'm trying to invite somebody to collaborate with me, I need to tell the story of what might happen for them if they join the team. You're constantly interacting with other people and making relationships through storytelling. Okay, so that's an introduction. Back to our questions. What are we supposed to do? Be a wayfinder, not a navigator, and crack the success code. Okay, and we're going to do that like designers, right? We just figured out what design is. Now let's get to that first question, wayfinder, not navigator. These are very technical terms for us in the design world. If you're going to think like a designer, wayfinding and navigation are 2 completely different ways of getting from point A to point B. In navigation, this is what your GPS does on your cell phone. You know exactly where you are. You know exactly where you're going. You know all the data about the space in between, all the roads and all that stuff. So you can plot the most efficient course. That's what your GPS does all the time, does a really good job. In wayfinding, you might know where you are approximately. You probably don't know exactly where you are. You absolutely don't know where you're going. I mean, how many of you know exactly where you're going 3 years from now? You don't. You can't know. You might have some ideas about the direction you want to go. You might have some attributes about the destination, but you're not quite sure where it is. So when you wayfind, what do? You go one step at a time. And wayfinding is what design thinking knows how to do. And navigation is what engineers know how to do. And here's the thing. Some of you are a little worried that I don't really know how to get where I'm going, so it probably isn't going to work. No, that's not true at all. You don't have to know how you're going to get where you're going. You just have to know how to make the next step. Now, here's what I want you to do. I'm actually going to turn off SlideShare for just a minute so you guys can really see my face. So I want you to see what I'm doing. Let's say, I'm starting right here. Backwards. Okay. I'm starting here. I'm trying to go here. If I'm navigating, I think the best way to do that is, well, straight line, from one place right to the other. Okay, piece of cake. But if I'm wayfinding, I don't really know where I'm going. Well, I think I'm starting about here, but I don't really know where that even is yet. So I'm going to go up here, and then I'm going to go down here, and then I'm going to look around. And I'm going to go this way. I'm going to go this way for a while. And then I'm going to go backward a little bit. I'm going to go backward this way, and then go like this. And then finally, now I got there. When you're wayfinding, when you're starting off on a pathway that you don't know the destination, literally a path of boing, 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 doop, 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 zoom, like that loopy back and forth, zipping around, kind of, doing laps thing is literally the shortest distance between these 2 points. If you're a human being living in Earth time and you're immortal and you don't know the future, then that's doing the best you possibly can. Getting there, there is no straight line efficiency to the future. Everybody's making it up as they go along. We're all making it up as we go along. All I'm trying to give you are some tools to be really good at making it up as you go along. That's what we're trying to do. Okay, I'm gonna get back to my screen share. Where'd we go? Okay, so what I want to do now is talk about the college success code. There's a huge study done by the Gallup organization, does political polling, and Purdue University, looking at what works in college. You look at the people years, 5 years later, 10 years later, after going to college in a variety of college formats, who succeeds and who doesn't, who had an experience in college that when you go into the future life, it worked, and who went to college and all they got out of it was a huge debt and wrecked their life. Here's what they learned. There were 6 things. They studied 30,000 people, looking not just at financial success, but a sense of purposefulness, social well-being, community well-being, physical health, like really a serious study. And they learned that 6 things make the difference. If you get these 6 things while you're in college, your chance of succeeding later in life goes way up. You can all read. So a professor who got them excited about learning something. You know, I was one of those professors for Gable and Melly. A professor who cared about them as a person, took an interest in them. A mentor who encourages them to pursue their dreams. Working on a long-term project that matters to you, a job or an internship where you apply the stuff you're learning in the real world, and involvement in extracurricular activities, not just going to classes. Now, if I look at this list of 6 things, it looks like a long list. It's really 2. That big 6 is really just 2 things. It is connect with a teacher, a mentor, you know, or a boss at an internship. So connect with, in most cases, you know, one of the adults out there in the world about something you care about that they can help you with. And then do stuff, do real things, meaty, actual things, not just reading books, that connect what you're learning in school with this place called the real world. And by the way, here's a hint. Digital Nest does exactly these 2 things. So I'm going to sell the daylights out of you getting involved with Digital Nest all the way through. Now, so those are the 2 key things that make a difference. And here's the reverse. If you don't do these 2 things, it won't matter. That's why going to Harvard badly is a waste of money. You go to Harvard and not do these 2 things, all you get is a bunch of grades. You go to CSU and be well and do these 2 things, you're going to kill it. Again, it's all about engagement. So it brings up the first conversation I want you guys to be able to have, because this is all about the people. Both the connection with and the doing things in the world come to you through people, not through computers. So I want now to send you guys off into groups of 4. And I think Catherine or Yasmin is going to, when I say go, is going to hit the little button, and you're going to suddenly find yourself in a room, an electronic room, a breakout room with 3 other students. And I want you to have this conversation. First of all, say, hello, my name is, and where I'm going to school and why I came to Nest Flight. So just do that in a couple of seconds. And then I want you to name one person already in your life who has helped to make something happen for you. Somebody who's helped you along the way, gave you, whether they motivated you or whether they helped you get a job or they helped you out of a jam, somebody who's been important to you. And what did they do and why did it matter to you? So I'm pretty sure all of you have already had somebody help you out. And it's always encouraging to hear those stories from each other. So now I'm going to stop screen sharing. And Catherine, send us off into foursomes. And I'm going to give you guys like about 6 minutes. You know, that's 1.5 minutes per person. So, hey, who are you? Who helped you? Why did it matter? Everybody gets a turn. And then when it's we got about a minute to go, we'll just automatically zoom you back into the big room. Off you go.
I think you just want to bring Dave back. I'm assuming he doesn't want to be in a room.
Oh, I think he does. He had the option to reject, no? Or to not go. I could bring him in.
Oh, yeah. I mean, maybe he wanted to go.
Yeah.
All right, I started a timer for us.
Oh, never mind. He got out. Hi, Dave.
Hey. Oh, you're muted.
Are we doing okay on bandwidth?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Good.
really strong.
Yep.
Man, this has happened a few times. I mean, I'm paying for 350 megabits. I'm getting about 90. But today I was getting 2.
Oh.
Which is not a lot.
Yeah, are you still virtually teaching too?
I'm about 4 different people. I'm actually not teaching at Stanford right now. I only teach in one course, which is actually for a bunch of 60-year-olds. We've built a team of 5 people in the Life Design Lab run by a managing director named Kathy Davies. And they're doing all the on-campus stuff. So I work part-time in a social impact incubator out of New York City. I do a bunch of coaching. We're working on the 2nd edition of the 2nd book. I used to do, hit the road. I mean, between 2018 and 19, I did over 100 gigs on the road. Speaking at universities and, companies and conferences and that kind of stuff. I mean, the thing just kind of went crazy. And then, COVID hit and like, bam, at that point, I think I already had, when COVID hit, I think I probably had 20 trips planned for 2020 and they were all canceled within a week. So I've been sitting in this damn chair Zooming, anywhere from 4 to 15 hours a week for the last 6 months, 9 months. And, but we're just doing the best we can.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump over. Because we started late and so on, I'm going to, not surprisingly, cut a bunch of stuff in order to.
They've been there about
What's that?
I could broadcast when it's 3 minutes left, we talked about.
Yeah, I think, that'd be fine. Just give me a hint.
You have time, Yasmin?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, we have a minute and a half to hit the 3-minute mark. So we all know.
Okay. Okay. trimmed it back a little bit. I think we'll probably have time for this. Now, are there 225 people in the other session, or are we lighter overall than we thought?
No, yeah, your session is still equally, if not more popular than the other one, but we had, I think, over 300 people register for the entire conference, but we've had people like, and there's been different
It's
people.
day 4, yeah.
Yeah, so it's actually been like pretty even roughly each day, but I think there's very few people that have come all 4 days. So it's like a different crowd each day.
Yeah, yeah. They're probably cherry picking, or they got jobs, they got stuff, you know, going on.
Yeah, we've had people come and say like, sorry, I like had a late class, or someone, you know, messaged me, was like, I had tennis practice, I'm so sorry. And so everybody, like everyone's been really like engaged that are showing up, which is great. Like we had mentor sessions the last 2 days that went really well. But yeah, I think it's probably like, we didn't ask them when they registered, like which days are you planning on attending. So yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna close the rooms and they have like 1 minute to come in.
Great. Okay, they are coming back in, which is great. Welcome. Okay, so I'm going to go back and, you know, what's life without PowerPoint? So we're going to continue. And I hope you guys had a nice conversation. It should be encouraging to hear the stories of people who've helped you along the way. And so, you know, encourage you, you know, to get out there and do these 2 things, you know, to make these things leverage and work for you, you know, to be a wayfinder and to make connections where you're doing stuff in the world. How do you do that? What are the steps to actually pull that off? Well, you know, I'm going to tell you right now. So we have the Keep It Simple system. And the Keep It Simple system is, you know, we got this 270-page book, and we got this, you know, 10-week, 20-hour Stanford class that we jammed down to a 9-hour super intensive workshop. I mean, holy cow, that's too much. So we came up with this with 10 words, the 10-word version of the entire book. And, you know, if you don't want to read the book, here's the 10 words, all you really need to know. The 4 steps are: get curious, talk to people, try stuff, and tell your story. If you do those 4 things, you're in good shape. You do those 4 things, what are you really doing? You're giving legs to your curiosity. It's all about the curiosity thing. That's what Gabe Nobelli was talking about. It's exactly what he did. So if you repeat that process, and I'll talk a little more about this, you know, you're going to get more engaged in something, engaged in your college experience, engaged in your internships, eventually engaged in your life and your career. And that is literally how you design your college experience. And it's how you then design also your life after college. So let's zoom in on each of these. So get curious. You know, you want to curate your curiosity. You want to learn how to develop your own curiosity. Well, how do you do that? You do that by adopting the attitude of pursuing latent wonderfulness. What the heck does that mean? Latent means it's just about to pop out, and wonderfulness means, trust me, it's in there. This is everything is interesting in the world if you just understood it from the point of view of the people who like it. You know, I mean, how many of you are thinking, boy, I really hope I get to be an insurance agent? Yeah, maybe probably not so much. Well, do you have any idea what an insurance agent really does? Have you ever talked to a happy insurance agent who enjoys her work? Okay, you got to assume somebody likes insurance. They think it's wonderful. I got to go find that person and find out what's so cool about insurance that I just never understood before. That is the attitude of pursuing latent wonderfulness. Something is interesting in there all the time. Trust me, and you're a lot more likely to find it if you think it's there. Because when you're pursuing latent wonderfulness, you are looking to find something you think is there. You don't just look, you look for something. Why does this person like this job? How did they get this thing? That's like, hey, what's going on over there? I don't know. Looks kind of boring to me. If you're pretty sure you're bored, you're going to be bored. So if you don't want to be bored, you got to be interested. And the best way to be interested is assume it's interesting. If it turns out it really is boring, you got plenty of time to leave that person alone. Now, talk to people. Probably the single most important thing. And when I'm talking about talking to people, I am not talking about what's called a transactional conversation. I'm talking about just a narrative, personal conversation. Get the story. Hey, Jacob Martinez, tell me about how you started this Nest thing. Okay, get the story, not trying to get the money out of them. You're not trying to get the job. You're not trying to get the deal done. You're not trying to get the admission into the program. No, those are all transactions, or you're trying to take something from somebody. You're trying to get the story, just what their story is. Now, why does this work? This works, and by the way, it is the number one way to get a job. It works because everybody has a story. If you say, well, hey, can you give me a job? Well, most people don't have a job to give. Well, hey, can you give me some money? Well, I'm not sure I want to give it to you. It took me a long time to get it myself. You know, hey, can you give me your story? Everybody's got one, and they all want to tell their story. If you're curious about them, and they're curious about themselves, you're now talking about their favorite topic. And that's great. And you say, oh, yeah, that's all fine, Dave. But, you know, eventually I got to get a job. I mean, what's this got to do with getting a job? Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Because it has a lot to do with getting a job, because it means it's time for us to address the problem that we call the iceberg problem, which is that 80% of jobs in the world are never listed publicly. Now, a lot of them are. They're on job boards and that kind of stuff. Some of them might post at Digital Nest, but the majority, the large majority of jobs, especially in the private sector, in the business world, are never listed anywhere. If you apply to everything, you apply to everything on Indeed and Monster.com and all that stuff, you've now touched 1 in 5 of the opportunities that are actually there. How do you find the other 8 out of 10? I'm so glad you asked. The problem with unicorn, by unicorn hunting, I mean, I'm trying to find that thing that you think maybe is even magical. Maybe it's not even there because I can't see it, the job that's not listed. The way it works is this. So here's, you know, an industry or a whole, you know, here's the Tri-County Central Coast area, you know, and there's you trying to get in and get a job. And all you see are these 2 jobs that are listed on some website. But what you can't see that are not listed are all these jobs inside, behind the curtain. Okay, so what's going on with that? How do you actually get to those other jobs? Well, first of all, what's really going on in there is not a bunch of jobs that are hiding. It's just a bunch of people who are working in an industry, in companies. And they're all talking to each other and they're doing stuff. And in the process of talking to each other and doing stuff, that's where jobs get created. The little stars would be new jobs, new places where we could use some help, including the jobs that are visible on the outside that are publicly posted and all the ones they don't publicly post. But here you are, you're sitting out there, you know, and all you can see, because you're not inside that bubble, you just see these 2 things. And you think maybe that's the cool one, you're going to apply to that. Here's the problem. So is everybody else. Everybody's applying to that job. Everybody's applying to that job. The hit rate on public applications is like 2%. It's really rough. So what you want to do is you want to break the secret by getting inside the community, behind the curtain, and talking to the people. Because if you talk to that guy, well, he knows those other people. And then he knows about that job that might fit you. And he knows that other guy and that woman, and they know other people and they know about those jobs. And if you start working your way through the people, you will find your way to the jobs that might be interesting, including the job that might even be created on the spot just for you because they found you were so interesting, which happens all the time, by the way. So what do you do? So if, you know, most of the jobs are unlisted, they're invisible, you only find them through the people. How do you get them? You get them exactly one way. You have to be in the conversation with that community of people. And we know only one way to get into that conversation. It's network to obtain an information interview, or a bunch of information interviews, I should say. And in so doing, discover the opportunities or maybe even create new ones for yourself. Now, what do I mean by an information interview? I mean by an information interview, I don't mean a job interview. I don't mean, hey, can you hire me? Because 9 times out of 10, the first thing you hear is, no, we're done. So that's not what we're trying to do. You're trying to say, oh, that's so interesting. Tell me what it's like to be a corporate lawyer at Driscoll Farms. I have no idea what that's like. You know, we're just having a conversation. You looking for a job? No. Maybe not today. You know, I'm not looking for a job. I'm just looking for the story. That's the get the story thing. And in the process of doing that, you will learn a lot about the world. You both find out what you might be interested in, and you get access to the people who might be able to offer you a job or refer you to one. Now, how do you get an information interview? It's really simple. My name's Lena. Jacob over at Digital Nest gave me your name and number. It said, you're the person I really needed to talk to get their story, not to get a job. I'm a Cabrillo student doing a project for a class actually about your company, i.e. use your classes to leverage this. I'd love to hear about your work experience and your organization. So what I'm going to ask you for is, could we set up a Zoom call for you to meet for like 20 minutes at a time convenient to you to discuss your work and your career? I'd love to have a chance to hear your story and learn from you. So you say all that, and what does the person you're talking to really hear? What they really hear is Jacob at Digital Nest, who they know. So you got referred by somebody. Oh, you're a student, so you're not looking for a job, but you're still studying. It's only 20 minutes. Oh, you want to hear me? You want to hear my story? I love my story. So Jacob, you're a student, 20 minutes of my story. Sure, let's do this. If you're asking for a job, the yes rate to the conversation is like 1 to 5%. If you're asking for the story, the yes rate to just getting a conversation going is about 70%. This works a lot better. Now, how do you get an information interview? That's where this networking thing comes in. You have to network. Now, some of you, even though, you know, I'm sure everybody at the whole Nest flight has been talking about networking nonstop, but a bunch of you feel like this girl. Maybe not. Networking, you know, I'm not really a networking kind of person. I think it's kind of sleazy. It's a little on the extroverted side. I'm kind of quiet, not my style, not really what I do. By the way, pretty much everybody tells us it's not my style. It's sleazy. It's not what I want to do. I mean, literally the Stanford Graduate School of Business, the #1 business school in the country. These are incredibly aggressive, future rapacious capitalists. You know, even they don't like networking. Go figure. So that's a problem. We need to do what in design we call as a reframe. Networking does not mean bugging people and harassing them and trying to get something for nothing, which is the way people think of it as a sleazy thing. Networking is just asking for directions. We haven't got time to do this a lot, but I bet all of you at some point have ever been lost. I mean, has anybody ever been lost and had a stranger help you? Have any of you ever helped a stranger find their way? Sure you have. Why do you do that? Because you're a human being. The research now shows human beings like being helpful. The pandemic has made that really clear. A lot of people like helping each other out. And why do you help that person? Well, because you're a human being too, and you like Watsonville, and you want to help them find their way. So when Bill and I wrote that book, we'd done a lot of stuff, but we had never written a book. We knew nothing about publishing and writing. We were newbies in Booktown. We'd never been to Booktown before. So we called people who lived in Booktown, writers, agents, publishers, and said, hey, you know, we're thinking about coming to your town. Could you show us around? Who should we talk to tell us what this, oh, you should call Doug. He's a really nice guy. You know, he'd take your call. You know, it's just asking for directions. So what I want to do right now, actually, listen, in the interest of having a little bit of Q&A time, because we got, you know, a 15-minute late start, Catherine, let's just do this in pairs. Just do twos. Or make it threesome. Make it threesomes. Sorry, I keep jerking around because I'm going to pull out. So make a threesome. That'll save us a little bit of time. And I want you to have another brief conversation, which is really simple. Again, who are you? Why'd you come? Name at least one, preferably two, conversations you like to have. So I keep selling, you got to talk to people. Well, just imagine you could talk to somebody who really knew what he or she was talking about. And there might be a kind of a person you'd like to meet. I'd love to meet a videographer, like Gabe Lamilli. Or I'd love to learn a topic of interest, like what does corporate law mean? Or what is diversity really a big issue inside companies or not? I don't understand how that works. So it might be a question of a topic you're really interested in learning about. There might be a person or a role you'd like to meet. Like I've never met a founder of a company. I've never met a company founder. I'd love to meet a company founder. So come up with one or two conversations you'd love. You have no idea how you're going to get that conversation, but just assume you could get it. Who would you like to talk to? Okay, go share those two things in a threesome, and then we'll bring you back in just about 4 minutes. Off we go into threesomes. So we give them, what time is it? Yeah, we give them until 7 of, so 53, 3 minutes from now.
Okay.
That'll give me time to wrap. Still give me time to wrap and then take a few questions.
Sounds good.
And we want to end right on time because Jacob's doing the wrap up at 6, right?
Yep, I'll check in with them, see if they're on time or not. They may be a little bit.
If they're late, I'll run over as much as they want just with Q&A, but I don't want to make the kids late.
Hi, welcome, Lisbeth. I'm about to put you in a breakout room, and your peers will tell you what they're talking about, okay? Does that sound good?
Will these be breakout room number 2?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You got to shrink that detail down off in the distance, and you'll see the problem completely differently.
Does Lisbeth have a invitation?
Yeah.
There she goes. I've got a dog under the desk. He's getting a little frisky. Well, you guys have been patient in handling the stress. This thing really wanting not to work.
Well, good. It's a life of virtual events, right?
Oh, man.
Yep.
I've had precious few of them. After literally now, 10 months of nothing but online, I've crashed. And sometimes, it's a big crowd of executives who paid serious money for it. They really don't want you to pixelate at the prices they're paying. But that hasn't been a problem too much yet. How much of a challenge for Digital Nest has it been do your participating students have good access?
Yeah.
Bandwidth access is an issue, right?
We provide them with laptops, and the district actually did a great job of providing hotspots.
Oh, great.
So they all have their hotspot, their Chromebooks, and it's been going well. Yeah.
Okay. All right, probably bring them back.
All right. Closing. There's other areas that, are not doing so well, but
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, welcome back. Now, I'm just going to wrap it up here. So, we gave you a chance. We talked about what's college really about. Doesn't matter where you go. Doesn't matter how you go. What seems to correlate to bringing about success in college as it relates to living a life you actually are happy with after you get out of college. And what are the steps to pull that stuff off? And so I think absolutely the top two are get curious and talk to people. I haven't had time to go very deeply into try stuff and tell your story. By the way, try stuff means doing projects, meeting people, getting out there in the community. That's exactly the kind of thing that Digital Nest can help you do. And then tell your stories when you get there. You got to have something to say. And that also is part of the programming and the soft skill development. You can learn more at Digital Nest. Can't get it all done in this one webinar, but we can certainly point you that direction. So those are those. And if you move through those things, just like Gable and Millie, it can really work for you. We've seen it happen time and time again. So you really want to, work hard, but play smart. Working hard and playing dumb just gets you exhausted and nowhere. I'm trying to give you the tips to play it smart. And if you're going to be smart, the smartest thing you can do is get involved with Digital Nest and learn this stuff. So if the only thing that happens at the end of this seminar is, I think that Gable and Millie guy was pretty cool. Maybe I should try this Digital Nest thing out. That's the most important thing to remember. So with that, do you have any questions about what we talked about here? And frankly, any question at all for a couple of minutes, including about my, I worked with Steve Jobs a million years ago, about my career, whatever. I got 9 grandchildren now, for God's sake, and I've done lots of startups and all that kind of stuff. So you can ask me any question you want. Probably type. Do you want to do typing into the chat and then Catherine, you pick, or just have people raise hands, or what?
Either works, whatever people are comfortable with. You can raise.
Yes, you do a little hand raise thing, or you can type into the chat. Either one of those will work. If you got any questions for Dave at all? And if neither of those work, then just unmute and start talking.
There you go. We have one from William. How do you find motivation to become better every day?
I'll tell you what I do. I don't have the motivation to become better every day. I'm really lazy. Left to my own devices, I'll just sit there. So what I do, you have to know yourself, right? You have to understand your own motivational structure. So it turns out I'm really awful at being embarrassed. I really hate to embarrass myself in public. So what I do is I obligate myself. Like if I want to learn something, I commit to teaching it. And I'm not going to stand up in front of a classroom and not know what I'm talking about. So that forces me to go learn something. If I want to, like working out, there's a big thing in the world of athletic exercise. Do you race to train, or do you train to race? What does that mean? Like you sign up, like used to be a mountain biker. And I could sign up in the Masters, over 55-year-old, old mountain biker guy. I could sign up to go to a race. That's going to force me to train and be in better shape because I don't want to embarrass myself on race day and be the last guy. I don't be the last guy. It looks terrible, So what I do is I use embarrassment, and I use the fact that I've got a fragile ego as a way to force myself to grow, to read more things. You got to find your own motivation. I think just waking up going, I'm going to be better today. I'm going to become smarter. I'm going to take a class. Kind of like, I need a bigger reason than that. I find myself, I need to be obligated. I need to do it with somebody else, sign up. I used to do long bike rides. And I don't like doing that because it's really hard. So I would sign up with a friend and he would drag me along. So get somebody to do it with you. Find any trick that works to keep it going. Let's see, what books do I recommend to read for overall life skills? Well, mine, of course. I mean, come on. I'm not sure there is an overall life skill book, by the way. I think I would zoom in on what do I specifically want to learn? Do I want to learn how to have more confidence? Do I want to learn how to do public speaking? Do I want to learn how to do project management? Do I want to learn how to code software? Figure out what it is you want to learn and find the way you learn. Is reading a good way for you to learn? Or do you need to do things? Do you need to be in a class with other people? Figure out how you learn well and target it that way. How do I balance family life, career, and passions? Well, in fact, in the book we think the whole idea of balance is kind of crazy. usually people talk about balance as work-life balance. Like, how do you balance work and life, or personal life and work life? The problem with any time you ask a question with two things in it is your brain turns it into a teeter-totter. Well, if work goes up, life goes down. Life goes up, work goes down. They're linked together like a teeter-totter. It's a zero-sum game. I can't have more of one, I have to have less of the other. And life isn't really like that. So we do a balance reframe dashboard in the book. We look at work, play, love, and love and health. 4 aspects of the human experience, and have you figure out more or less of which at different points in your life. There are times when, I'm working my butt off 80 hours a week, nonstop. So there's no balance at all, but it's the right thing to do for that month. Like when we had to get the book done and on the shelf because we had a big launch planned, like you can't be late. You can't be late. So you do pull all the all-nighters. What do you have to do? So this myth, I think it's a complete myth that everything fits and it's all right. I do just as much of each thing every week as I'm supposed to do, and it hums along, like driving 65 miles an hour on cruise control straight down Highway 5 for 6 hours without ever varying my speed. That never happens. So I adjust it according to the situation, and when things get really out of whack, I've got people who call me on it and say, hey, it's not working, and then you make the adjustments as best you can. What else we got? Part of not letting the environment define us is learning how to be financially independent. Any advice in embarking on this journey? Yeah, there are 3 things you don't want to do. I mean, you don't want to be in trouble with the law. You don't want to be addicted to something that's going to steal your freedom. And you don't want, the IRS and debtors running after you. You don't want to be broke. So if you want to be able to carry your own weight, there are exactly 2 ways to be financially secure. Spend less or make more. But just get used to spending less than you're making. And the easiest way to make more money is spend less. So I know a lot of people who are always spending about 15% more than they make, no matter how much they make. As soon as they start making a little more money, they start spending a little bit more. They run out of month before they run out of money every month, no matter how much they're making. So the smartest thing to do there is to learn some discipline, and then you want to pick a career path that has the opportunity, at least, to eventually generate the kind of income that will support the lifestyle you're trying to get to. If you've got a certain kind of a life, certain kind of an income stream that can't support your lifestyle, something's got to give. I had a student years ago who came to the conclusion that all this capitalism and all this corporate stuff and all this business stuff and all this working, it's all bullshit. It's just bullshit. That's not life. And he said, it's all this money stuff. This money stuff sucks. I don't want anything to do with it. So he figured out that his goal was going to be to live on $5,000 a year. And he was going to live with such a light footprint that he would be able to, at any moment in time, carry everything he owned on his back. And he did that for the last 2 years that he was in college. So he literally got stuff whittled all the way. He carried everything he owned in a backpack on his back all day, every day, just to make sure that he was traveling light. And he learned how to live really cheap. So he said, now I hardly have to work at all. Now, I don't know how long he stayed with that. And that's a really radical commitment. Or I knew another guy like, I'll just do whatever it takes to make $1 million a year. And he eventually got there. So I think there are lots of answers on this money stuff in between being in trouble. But you can't ask the economy to pay you more for a job than it's willing to pay. It's all market driven, right? One of my older sisters has a PhD in education. She runs a graduate school of education in Fresno at a lovely small private college. She's absolutely a much better leader and manager than I am. She's brilliant at it. She's well known at the state level. She testifies to the governor all the time. She's really good at what she does. I was a management consultant and a big time Silicon Valley executive. I do the same kind of thing that she does. I do it a little worse, but I do it in a very different marketplace. I got paid about 7 to 10 times more for the same thing than she did. 7 to 10 times. That's crazy. So you got to think about where you're going. Do we need to go?
For all the stories, yeah. So we're wrapping up, and thank you everybody for your questions. This was awesome. Like we started 15 minutes late, but totally worth it. You know, worth the wait. Thank you, Dave, for sharing your wisdom with us, and thank you everybody for being here and being engaged.